Just Pearly Things has always been a bit of a controversial, content creator here on YouTube. Just Pearly Things is the Caucasian woman sitting on your right at the top. And one of the things she always says is, hey, just Google it. Or, let's just search it up. And there are issues with that because when you don't verify numbers, you tend to start looking like a fool. But you also start looking very, very biased when you make arguments. Let's check this out.
51% of arrests for murder in 2019 were black. Black women are 7% of the population, 39% of abortions. Felony conviction rate for black individuals is 61%. Black people are 13% of the population, but are incarcerated 38% of the time.
So Pearly Things has this way of just reading out black people's statistics. And if you ask her for like a white person statistic, she might tell you that she doesn't know.
Do you know how many white men are felons?
Not off the top of my head.
That is what I think the issue is, and that's what I want to talk about. The whole idea of how these statistics are just thrown out. And one of the main statistics that is thrown out is the idea of crime or is the idea of violence. And so that's always generally thrown on black people. Even if you look at how they talk about like countries where they think is safe versus unsafe, most of the times the countries that seem to be unsafe in people's minds are generally going to be predominantly black countries. Hey, don't ask me, just ask the data that is out there. And if you're listening to Pearl right now, she's actually showing you that, but only that she's showing you that from the United States of America's point of view.
People committing more crime, a lack of basic decorum, a lack of good faith, at times a lack of work ethic, basic manners, sexual.
As you can see, the panel is already smiling. They are heated, them hot, them want to get into it. So would I guess, if I was on the panel in itself. But hold on. Pearl talks about basic manners. Let me give you my experience of living in Pennsylvania, right? And most of the times I would pass people and say good morning, good evening, and they would not even answer. That's basic manners. Basic manners. So I'm not quite certain what Pearly Things is talking about, but again, some of her data, a lot of it, probably most of it, tends to be very, very subjective and is not very objective data at all.
Behavior in public, dressing overly provocative, taking advantage of white people's good nature, gaslighting, attitude.
Taking advantage of white people's good nature. So in other words, as a black person, I guess we don't have that much good nature. Is that what that means?
Hurry up and buy.
I'm not quite certain. Anyways, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring someone on to debunk some of what Pearly Things is saying, because this narrative has been around now for a long period of time. And newsflash, it's not just here. It's all over the place. Check this out.
If you believe that people of color are inherently more violent than white people, you're an idiot or you've been propagandized. I've got people in my comments sections arguing that the reason the homicide rates in these red states are so high is because of all the black people in the Democrat cities within those states. It's garbage. We're putting it to bed right now. I've got FBI homicide rate data. I've got U.S. Census Bureau data. I've got the 5 cities with the highest percentage of their population who self-identifies as black. So according to these people in my comments section, they should have the 5 highest murder rates in the country, right? Number 1 is South Fulton, Georgia, where 90.6% of the population self-identifies as black. Their murder rate, below the national average. You know what else is below the national average? Their poverty rate. I'm sure that's a correlation that won't persist throughout this entire thing and around the world.
Here I come.
He's right on the button. Wherever there's a lot of poverty, there tends to be a lot more crimes. And rightfully so. If you think about it, if you even go back to the medieval times or, the Middle Ages or times when times are very, very hard, what would it tend to do? It would tend to make people basically want to, do bad things. Because you're trying to survive. You're trying to actually eat. Your primal instinct, your primal nature is going to actually kick in. It just is. But see, when Pearly Things was giving her data out, those things were left out. She forgot to mention about the poverty. And by the way, the poverty is so systemic that it has been there for a long period of time. Because it's not like black people get that much, of an advantage more than anything else. Don't believe me? Okay, let's just go back. down, memory lane or down to where history actually is. And in these here United States of America, you do realize that maybe even still now to some extent, if we had a Caucasian and a black person and we're talking about a home loan, the chances of the Caucasian getting the loan is way higher. And I'm talking about if they're at the same level with credit score, same level with bank accounts. What causes that? That's what I mean. Less opportunities, you tend to get boxed out. No, I'm not saying, things hasn't improved, but it still is not to the point that it needs to be as yet. Those things have to be talked about. The difference between America and, say, for example, Jamaica is, in America, the problem is race. In Jamaica, the problem is class. So the same thing happens, but it just happens in a different way. For example, let's say you're in Jamaica. And let us just say you live in an affluent neighborhood and your parents are very, very affluent. And I live in the hood, or I live in what is called there the ghetto. And let us just say I'm an A student and we're going out for the same job. And you are a C student, but you live in that very, very nice neighborhood. The chances of you getting the job is still higher than I am. That's just how it is. So you're categorized by that, which is what? Which is class. And this happens. And it's not that we don't have problems of race, because we do have problems of race, but it's just very, very small, and you have to get to the top to experience said problems. But these things should be talked about.
Number 2, Jackson, Mississippi. 82% self-identify as black. Murder rate is near the top. You know what else is near the top? Their poverty rate. That's 2.63 times higher than the national average and is the 8th highest in the country. Number 3, East Orange, New Jersey, 79.1% self-identify as black. Should have the 3rd highest murder rate in the country, right? It's not in the top 200. It is above the national average, just like their poverty rate. Number 4, Lauderhill, Florida, 76.3% identify as black. Should have the 4th highest murder rate in the country, right? It's not in the top 100. It is above the national average and slightly higher than East Orange, but so is their poverty rate at 19.4%. And number 5, Detroit, Michigan, should have the lowest murder rate on this list, right? 75.3% self-identify as black. Their murder rate is the 8th highest in the nation. Their poverty rate is the 4th highest in the nation, 3.08 times the national average. Look at this table I'm building, right?
Let's stop right there. Let's take a check on the table. These are things you have to talk about. If you're going to mention the whole idea of criminals or whatever else it is, you cannot speak about that in a vacuum. Let's not forget that it is proven, and there are research out there to back this up, that if between a black person and a white person, and if they were both charged, the black guy would basically be charged at a harsher sentence than the white guy. These things are actually proven. These things have data behind them. So we're not talking about that. A white person gets more second chances maybe than a black person. We're not talking about that. See, so when Pearly Things drops out these numbers as she does, where she pulls them out of the rear. She's not pulling them out with anything else. She's just pulling them out because she's just doing the same things that people has done before, which is just basically, drop statistics. No context, just statistics.
I've got 40 cities with populations of 40,000 or higher sorted by homicide rate. Not a single one of them in this top 40 list is below or at the national average for poverty. They are all above, and as you get higher and higher in magnitudes above the poverty rate, the homicide rate tends to increase. We've got nations around the world who have done this research for years. We know that poverty and lack of opportunity lead to higher crime rates. Look at this map of the states with these high homicide rates. You've got Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, New Mexico, Michigan. People are like, oh, it's the black people. It's the poverty. They're the poorest states in the country. Now, if you want to talk about why these people are so impoverished, you'll probably start asking yourself some questions that make you uncomfortable about a system that allows these things to perpetuate themselves.
And there you go. Those are the facts. See, if Pearly Things had come onto the panel and, started to kind of had the conversation, genuinely, and talked about it, fairly and squarely, But if you notice how she already started by painting the narrative. No context, no nothing at all, just listing off a bunch of, statistic. That's basically what it is. Now, if Pearl had done that, I would have respected her some more. But that's why me and Pearl are at it. We're at odds. Because Pearl is just, I guess she's calling herself a, YouTube data queen. What are the real numbers? So it begs me to ask a question. Are black people being disenfranchised by statistics? Are statistics being used to continuously keep things at a certain rate? I'm not sure. I don't know. But I'm asking y'all, what do y'all think? Let me know. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you soon.